Okay, let's talk about the game that had some controversy in 2018. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Here I have my copy of Shield that I've pre-ordered from the Pokemon Center website. When you pre-order from the Pokemon Center website, you get a little plushie here. It's Grookey. I didn't start with Grookey. I started with Sobble. I fell in love with that little lizard the moment he was announced. Okay, so let's talk about it. Here's the thing. I remember reading about this post of like all the biggest problems of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I remember reading it. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a broken game. It's gonna be crashing every 5-10 minutes. And when I finally got to play the copy of the game and actually play it, I realized that all of those, the list of problems in this game that someone posted, it's a load of bullshit and it's greatly exaggerated because of the whole Pokedex controversy thing. Like, yeah, some Pokemon are missing. And you know what? Hold on. Let me stop recording for a moment to see. Alright, I'm going to use the calculator on my phone real quick just to see how many Pokemon is missing. Hold on. I'm back. I just did the math. About 55% of the Pokemon were cut, which means only 45% was left in Sword and Shield. And here's the thing. I know before the game's release, it's like, in fact, back in Generation 6, I believe, maybe Generation 5, like, okay, there's gonna come eventually a time where not every single Pokemon is in the game. The way Pokemon is designed is different from other RPG series. In other RPGs, you fight a lot of monsters too, hundreds of monsters, but a lot of them share the same design. Here you have, we're at 890 Pokemon with different designs. Yeah, there's a reason for them to cut. Like, it would have to come eventually. But I guess because when people learn that not every single Pokemon is going to be in this game, it just got salty, like very salty. And they just found these huge criticisms in the game that are just greatly exaggerated. And when I saw the list, when I thought about that list of all the problems in Pokemon Sword and Shield and playing the game myself, I'm like, this list is full of shit. Like, people complain about how the overworld is freezing whenever you go up and down the ladder. Just be glad it only happens when you go up and down the ladder and not when you're running the entire region. It's not like the entire Galar region is just a game of chutes and ladders where you're constantly going up and down ladders when you're going down the roads in the game. No, it's only like 2 areas in the game that has ladders. I was like, oh my god, the game is broken when you go up and down the ladder. Like, be glad it only happens when you're going up and down ladder. I would hate to be going, running across the field and the game freezes that way. Especially when you have, Pokemon running across the environment. Like, how awkward would it be? You're running across the fields and, that wild Pokemon is just standing there freezing because it couldn't move. Like, no, it's not like that. It only happens when you're going up and down a ladder. But, there was like this one complaint, like, oh, I beat the game in 15 hours. Here's the thing. I don't know how you play, but when I play, my average game time is like 22 hours. And that's because I explore every single inch of the city. I check every nook and cranny for items. Whenever I come across a Pokemon, I catch it. Even if it's a Pokemon I don't put in my team, I'm going to catch it. My playtime at the end of this was like 28 hours. And to be fair, I actually did leave the game on for like a couple hours because like, oh, I'm going to have dinner, I'll be back. And I just left on for a couple hours so realistically, it could be like 24 hours. I don't know what the person did to get 15 hours. They must have been breezing through the game. And then, like, I was watching someone's playthrough, and someone in the, it was like a chat, and someone in the chat was like, oh, someone said they beat the game in 6 hours. It's like, 6 hours? I didn't even get to the 4th gym leader until, like, 6 hours in. There's no way anyone will beat the game in 6 hours. But that's because, it's people bullshitting because, they're upset about the Pokédex cut. Someone was complaining like, oh, there's no option to, skip cutscenes. There's actually an option in the menu to, skip cutscenes. You can't have a complaint that you can't skip cutscenes in the game. Then you go to the settings menu, and there it is, an option to skip cutscenes. And then there was a complaint of their Pokemon being overleveled. Here's the thing: I think Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee balanced the experience share. Yeah, I did find myself to be overleveled in this game, but only by 2 levels. Unlike in Generation 6, where I was 10 levels higher than the trainers and the Elite Four. In this game, it was just 2 levels. Not only that, the same person complains about not catching, Pokemon higher than the, you in order to catch Pokemon of a certain level, you have to obtain a certain gym badge. You can only catch Pokemon of level 35 with the gym badge you have, but you come across to level 45 and you can't catch it. And I remember reading it's wait, this person complained about Pokemon being overleveled. Now they're complaining that they can't catch Pokemon that is overleveled. It doesn't make sense. And the thing is, people complain about the graphics. Oh, look at this tree that looks like a Nintendo 64 PlayStation 1 graphics tree. And I'm this is a poor quality 5-inch image. And when I actually do play the game on my HD TV screen, I'm it doesn't look it doesn't look like a Nintendo 64 PlayStation 1 tree. Yeah, it does look blocky, but it doesn't look Nintendo 64 PlayStation 1. I grew up with a PlayStation 1. I know what a tree in a PlayStation 1 game looks like. And it didn't look like that. But of course, it's all from an image that is poor quality. This 5-inch image, smaller than this game cartridge, posted on the internet. Is look how poor quality this tree is. It's yeah, show an HD image and it doesn't really look that bad. I actually remember when the game was first announced that people were going on how good the game looks. How good the water looks, how good the grass looks. And all of a sudden, when the Pokédex was cut, now all of a sudden the graphics look bad. Ugh. And here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie, compared to main series Pokemon games, it's still technically the greatest looking Pokemon game there is right now. And after playing it, it's actually my favorite. I love the soundtrack of this game. I think this game looks good. There aren't any crashes in this game. Remember in Pokemon X and Y, the game crashed when you saved at Lumio City. I've never heard anything about the game crashing so far. People complain about, the bad animations in this game. And the one they always show you is that, the version cut, the one that's on the cover, the Wolf Legendary, doing this straight walking animation and then doing a complete 180 whilst walking straight. And when I came across that, I'm yeah, that was poorly animated, but compared to everything else in the game, that was probably the only bad animated part of the entire game. It's like they literally cherry picked the only part of the game that has bad animation. It's like, oh, here's the one, like, here's a bad animation scene. The only bad animated scene in the entire game. We're just gonna post it online and say, yeah, that applies to the entire game. Don't buy the game to prove me wrong. Just cherry picking. Cherubi picking, actually. And I know why the Pokédex was cut. It's because of Dynamax. And like when I heard Dynamax when was first announced, I was not a fan of the idea. I was never a fan of Mega Evolution. I thought Mega Evolution was broken. And when I heard about Dynamax, I was like, oh, it makes your Pokemon large. I just thought, geez, I wonder how broken that is. Luckily, it only lasts for 3 turns. And I'm like, you know what? Dynamax is the reason why the Pokédex was cut. Because not only do you have to have the normal size models of the Pokemon, but you have to have the Dynamax models of the Pokemon. And the Dynamax Pokemon and when the Pokemon's regular sized are 2 different models. And I'm like, maybe that's why. Especially when Alcremie has multiple forms. Which means not only does it have multiple regular models, but also has multiple Dynamax models. So yeah, blame it on Alcremie. But you know, if you really think about it, let's think about this. If Dynamax is exclusive to Sword and Shield and only to Sword and Shield, well, are you willing to give up pretty much more than half of the Pokédex just to have this feature of Dynamaxing? You know, before the game, I was a bit suspicious. Like, I don't know if cutting the Pokemon is just for this one feature of Dynamaxing. But when I experienced that gym battle, and the gym leader Dynamaxed their Pokemon, and the audience, or like in music, the gym music, which, you know, plays this audio of like the audience just cheering for this gym battle, because the gym leader Dynamaxed their Pokemon, like, it actually gave me hype. Like, you know, at first I was like, I'm not really a fan of this Dynamax, but by the, let's say, like, the 3rd or 4th gym, I was Dynamaxing along, you know, with the gym leader. Like, I was Dynamaxing my Pokemon along with the gym leaders, and I was just getting into that Dynamax hype with the gym leader music, and I'm like, yep, this is so hype. Like, if I could give up this, you know, if giving up giving up a lot of the Pokemon from the Pokédex just for this one feature, just for this one generation, yeah, it's actually kind of worth it. I'm like, it's actually pretty hype. This is about, you know, just for this one generation. Like, you know, next generation, they're not going to have the Dynamax feature. They would have to have, you know, something else, and maybe it wouldn't, you know, cost the Pokédex. You know, I understand, like, people complain, like, I don't know if I want to spend $60 on this. I mean, in my honest opinion, it has more value than Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. I thought Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was not worth $60. You know, after I played Let's Go Pikachu, I'm like, it's not worth it. And think about this game, like, is this game worth $60 or is it worth $40? And I'm like, you know, I did that video talking about Dragon Quest XI, and this game was so huge. And here's the thing you must know, is that this is, you know, like, this is Game Freak's first attempt on a console game. And I guess they're too busy thinking, like, oh, the Switch is not just a console game, it's a handheld game, too. It's a handheld system. And they're so used to making handheld games since 95, 96. That's how long Game Freak has been making, you know, a Pokemon series. Or that long. That, you know, they're so used to adapting to the handheld system that they're not exactly ready for the console system, and people were comparing this game to Breath of the Wild. They're comparing it to Super Mario Odyssey. Like, oh, see, Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, they're Switch-worthy games. Like, yeah, but the people who made those games, like, those series, the Mario series and the Zelda series, they've been on console systems since the 80s. They know how console systems evolved. Game Freak doesn't. They don't really understand, how a console system works. This game isn't bad, and it does look good, but at the same time, I can kind of understand the complaints. Like, I did beat the game in 28 hours, which is, more time compared to, my previous average of Pokemon games, which is usually 22. But at the same time, it's a console game. You want at least 60 hours in a game. 1 hour per dollar. You just want a bigger game. And there was something else. Like, what made Dragon Quest XI... Oh, right, there was actually a complaint when I first played this game. When I first played this game, there was that lack of voice acting. Like, when you saw Chairman Rose, like, introducing you to the Pokemon world, and I was like, this is awkward. I find this lack of voice acting weird. There's also that cutscene where Pierce is, having this concert, and he's singing, but you don't hear anything except that awkward microphone sound. I was like, yeah, this is an awkward scene to watch. I didn't mind the lack of voice acting in Let's Go Pikachu. I didn't mind the lack of voice acting in Generation 7. But in Sword and Shield, the lack of voice acting is just weird. And I'm like sitting there with a controller in my hand, like, playing this console game without any voice acting is just weird. Especially with what the game looks. And I'm recording this. This is my last game of 2019 that I'm discussing. And we're getting, right now it's 2020. And I'm like thinking, it's probably not a good idea for Pokemon, for Game Freak to announce a new Pokemon title and just, it's not right now a good time. Like, they should not, I was like, they shouldn't, announce like a third version. They shouldn't announce, Diamond Pearl remake. They need, what they need to do is that they need to realize, like, oh, we're now, working on a console game. Like, we need to change things up a bit. We can't make a game that should be like 20 hours average. We have to start working on a Pokemon game that is at least 60 hours for a long Pokemon game. We also need to have a Pokemon game with voice acting. Even if it means, we have to wait longer, at least we're going to have a quality console game. It's like, it wasn't so bad when it was on handheld, but now that it's on the console, like, yeah, I can kind of understand where people are complaining. Like, I did pay $60 on this game. Maybe we do need a longer Pokemon game. Maybe there should be some voice acting, because it was awkward. I didn't mind the lack of the Pokedex cut, because, like, it would happen eventually. And, I mean, there's, like, a lot of Pokemon in this game, as enough as it is. My box was filled before I even got to the first gym leader. And you only need, like, 6 Pokemon in a team anyway, so the 400 in the game was just enough as it is. I mean, here's the thing. I'm on this fence here. Like, people are exaggerating the bad stuff in this game, but I do know some flaws in this game as well. But you know what? This game is not as bad as people said it is. Like, oh, they're gonna be as bad as that Bethesda game. Bethesda's. I don't know what the fuck that company is. The company that made Fallout. People were saying how bad this game is. It's like this is bad. This game is as bad as Fallout 76. Although from what I heard about Fallout 76, hey, at least this game is playable. At least this game works. From what I've heard, Fallout 76 is broken. There's no video of people posting about how bad or how broken Sword and Shield is. Yeah, people talk about the ladder and how the game freezes when you go up and down the ladder, but there's no videos on YouTube of people showcasing the broken bugs of Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's just that because of that Pokedex cut thing, people are just exaggerating the bad. But, that's the kind of world we're living in. People just want to exaggerate the bad these days. Anyways, my voice is aching right now. I'm tired of complaining. There's only so much words I could say in a day. I think I used them all. I'm gonna stop here. Have a nice day.